Hello and good morning, everybody. Welcome to our webinar today. My name is Paul Hedgecock, and I'm the General Manager at Advanced Data, and we're happy to be joined by Jason and Brian Shavy, who are our co-founders and the CEO and CTO, respectively. We're excited to share some information with you about AI and the current developments, the latest and greatest. I'm sure everybody's heard some information to some degree about what is happening in the AI field. And we welcome you. We have partners, we have new partners, we have friends, people from all different areas of our circle of influence. We're excited to have you join us today and hope you find value in our presentation. Let's go ahead and dive in. And at first, we want to ask a question. We'd like to ask, has anybody heard somebody share a negative experience about AI? And while you're thinking about this, I'll just share one simple example. Not too long ago, I was visiting with somebody, and they shared at a very high level that they had tried AI, and they said, well, it doesn't do data analytics very well, which I thought was kind of interesting because I thought that data analysis is perhaps one of the things that AI is the best at. Has anybody else had that experience where somebody has, or has this been you, where you've had an experience with AI that was perhaps not as positive? All right, looks like we got a couple folks that are chiming in a little bit, and some of us haven't had this experience, which is outstanding. What I'd like to do is just share some information about how AI works within our organizations and how we work with organizations to implement successful AI projects. And I want to share a principle here that some have maybe heard of before, and it's standing on the shoulders of giants. So at our team, one of our core values is passionate learning. So we are always looking to learn more on behalf of our partners. We feel like that's what our partners work with us for, is to be ahead of the latest and greatest in technology. And so in our team internally, what we're doing is we're actually attending courses. One of the courses that we're attending is through a prestigious research university at Johns Hopkins for using AI in healthcare. And I want to share with you one of the things we've taken from some of that information. This is what's called the ROAD framework for AI project implementation. You can see that it's piloted by Dr. Ian McCullough and Dr. Dan Byrne from the university. And these are two individuals who have implemented numerous projects in AI, both in healthcare, but also in other contexts. I share this with the group today because this is the foundation of having a successful project, and these roles have specific application. You can see that ROAD is an acronym, right? And so we start with requirements. We then move on to operationalize data. We then go to the analytic method, and finally deployment. And obviously this is those four pillars are very simple. But what I really wanted to highlight is something that we've been talking about in previous webinars and things that we have found very successful with our ongoing AI projects is the existence of a domain expert. So in successful AI implementation, we are often only able to be as successful as our partnership and our relationship with our partners. Anything that we on the data side do, we at Advanced Data could provide the visual expert piece. We could provide the data scientist piece. We could provide the data engineer piece, but really, outside of technology, we're probably not going to provide a healthcare domain expert. We may not be able to provide a manufacturing domain expert. We're going to rely on our partners to provide the expertise, and then we can contribute these other elements of the framework. We share this with the group because this is a good model of, again, how AI is successful. And in our message today, what we wanted to cover is some of the fundamental elements of AI and why these last three parts are important, and why our partnership with our partners and friends is so critical to the success of our projects.
And I want to add, Paul, that when we say the domain expert needs to be our partners, that's not a third party. That's the client that we're engaging with, right? We're asking for high touch, high engagement from an individual in your organizations to to be with us, to be the domain expert. It's right. It's not, we're not saying bring in somebody else. It's bring someone from your team that can commit time to be to lead us in that specific field, in that pillar.
Excellent. Totally agreed. So, Brian, let's take some
Yeah.
time to look at the latest and greatest in AI.
Yeah, I wanted to just have a little section here where we talk about AI in the news because there's so much that's happening. And so I wanted to highlight just a few things. The first one here is a story about an Australian whose dog has cancer. And this is a beloved family member, and he was not getting answers from his vets. And so he turned to AI and created a bespoke cancer vaccine using mRNA, is that how it is with DNA? I'm not a biologist, but really fascinating story about how AI was used to create the first ever kind of cancer treatment specific to this animal, and it's not, you know, th- it's not like uh, maybe earth-shattering necessarily, but it's just a first of many things to come, which is really exciting. The second one I have here is something called Project Glasswing. For those that may not know, there are really three or four actually primary foundational models out there. One of them is Anthropic, and Anthropic just this week announced that their latest model, it's not yet released, but they can't release it to the public yet because it is so powerful that it found vulnerabilities in applications and software that run businesses around the world. And so what they had to do is they had to reach out to all of the operating system and vendors and all the developers, said, hey, we have a new model that we're going to be releasing soon. And before we do, you need to patch your software. Because if this gets in the hands of the wrong people, they will be able to exploit vulnerabilities. And so it's really interesting to think of this intersection of cybersecurity and AI. Next one, this was from NPR. This was about uh, legal entities that are heavily using AI and finding that at times when they go to argue a case, they will accidentally insert fake citations. These are what are called hallucinations, and so AI is making up uh, some case and they're introducing it, and it's actually getting presented as evidence. And so it just highlights the need to be wary when we're using AI in high stakes areas that there is still human judgment used. The next one, similar to the top one, where a man let ChatGPT sell his home, and it beat all of the agents that he was talking to by a good margin, and it closed in 5 days. So kind of an interesting one. The next page is a continuation of the security one, where North Korean hackers were recently implicated in a supply chain hack. And if you scroll down just a little bit, Paul, this is really interesting because it says they reached out masquerading as the founder of a company and they cloned the company's founder's likeness as well as the company itself. So they used AI tools to make a fake copy of this company. They invited him to a real work space. They then connected to him to a meeting, and then eventually, with all that trust that was built up, they were able to deploy a remote access tool. And so it's just interesting to see how, again, AI can be used for good and ill. And in this case, we have threat actors that are using AI to masquerade as legitimate entities. So yeah, so there's just a couple of things in the news. Um, I'm going to share my screen now, Paul. I'm going to switch over. All right. So what I'm going to do next is I'm actually going to generate live the next set of slides that we're going to use. I'm in a product here called Gamma, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to paste our script for what we're going to talk about today. I just pasted it in here, and we're gonna create this. on the fly, and we'll see how well this goes. I'm going to say I want it to be concise. That this theme looks fine. Let's use illustrations. Okay, I'm gonna accept most of these defaults. I don't think I need to really edit this too much. But all I've done is I've pasted the script, right, of what I want to talk about, and I'm going to click generate. And actually, I should have upped that. Let me go back here. I just noticed so we can see right here it's going to start generating the slides, right? It just generates it based off of what I pasted in there. I did make one mistake, however. I'm going to start this over again because I didn't change the number of slides, and we're going to need more than 10 because there's a lot of content that we're going to talk about here today. That's all fine. Illustration's good. Yeah, I'm going to up this. We'll do 20 slides, and we'll start that one again. Okay, so here we can see that AI is now just going to take off, and it's going to start generating our slide deck live. So while that works, and we can see that it's actually going to be generating images as well. Here on the right, you can kind of see that that's working. But today what we're going to cover is we're going to do an AI catch-up guide where we're going to kind of catch everyone up to the latest because so much has happened from the inception of AI and its release in November of 2023 when ChatGPT was released to now. There's just a ton. And so we're going to be covering a lot of basic principles. And again, if you're an advanced AI user, you may not get tons of value out of this, but I hope that it'll reinforce some principles. So again, here's the roadmap. Well, let's jump here and get started in fundamentals. And again, we can see that AI is making all this for me on the fly, so it's really nice. But let's start off here with what is AI. And so at its core, if we were to really, it takes inputs and it generates outputs, right? That's basic computer science for you, I think. And there are really two different modes that we could think of. There's an assistant mode where you tell it what you want it to do, right? You give it specific instructions. And then there's another mode that's an agentic or agent mode where you give it a goal, right? You don't tell it how to do something, you tell it what you want it to accomplish, and then the agent will figure it out. So that's really the two predominant modes that are out there. The next that I want to talk about today is the model or what a model is. So a model, if you were to think about it, it's really like a software version. And models can be used for different things. There might be a model that's really good at generating images. There might be a model that's really good at data analysis. There is a model that is good at writing, right? And one thing to note is that AI pros, those that are really heavily using AI and getting a lot of success out of it, they're using on average 3.5 models regularly. And so it really helps to understand that you use the right model for the task at hand. And they just have different strengths and weaknesses. So one of the things that it's probably to highlight is that there is a free tier with AI. And so if anybody's had a bad experience, then it might be because they started off with the free tier. And you have to keep in mind that these models are very expensive to run. And so they can't just the companies like OpenAI or Anthropic or Google, they can't just put the best models forward for the free tier. And so typically, if somebody's going to have a bad experience, a lot of times it's because they started off on the free tier. And it isn't that good. So the fix is you need to just use the right model. All right, so Jason, I'm going to hand it over to you to talk about misconceptions.
Yeah, I think if you ever talk to people who are maybe are a little hesitant or are resistant to AI adoption, have one of some misconceptions that they may have experienced in their life cycle with AI. And so we want to kind of go through this and go through some of these misconceptions and talk about it. So the first one is AI isn't that great. And the reality is that if someone's had that experience, they they may have used an older model. Maybe this was some time ago that they had this experience, and it's like, hey, it just didn't solve my problem then. But what's happening in AI is it iterates so quickly that if they had that experience a year ago, the models are so vastly more advanced today that it's outperforming oftentimes what we can do in our normal day-to-day operations. And so, and I think the thing that's very telling is the capabilities of AI, it doubles roughly every 4 months. And so if you have had that experience, give it another try is our recommendation. And if you have something that you're trying to do that it can't do well now, wait a week. That's what we like to say, but in reality, wait a month or 2 or 4, and you're going to see that it's probably going to be much better at that task in the near future. All right, myth number 2. Slop. This was the word of the year last year around AI. Everything that AI produces is just slop, and really, it's just saying, hey, it's just spitting out and regurgitating stuff. It's not high quality. It's just volume over quantity over quality, and the reality now is that yes, it can produce a lot of content, but the content gets better and better and better. It's just not really true anymore that it's just going to produce garbage. It's the quality. I think there was a study that said they presented two outputs of a one was written by a human, one was written by AI, and they said, "What's your preference?" And overwhelmingly, everyone was selecting the AI output as just more readable, better, and just all of those things. So yeah, this notion of AI output is not good. It's not high quality. It's just not the case anymore. Myth number 3. AI hallucinates all the time. I can't use this because it's going to hallucinate and give me bad data. And the reality is that used to be the case. We've all seen pictures of people with 7 fingers on one hand, and some. Brian even alluded to that news article, like, hey, there's fake case studies and legal briefs and things like that. The reality is, and the data shows this, is that the hallucination drops from 21.8% down to 0.7% over the course of as AI has developed. And so, and this is getting better and better. This isn't even on the latest models yet. So this data. So hallucinations, particularly around data, is really not happening much anymore. Now, you need to validate the data. We're not saying that you don't do that. And especially with domain-specific queries like legal, medical, other things that verification absolutely matters and needs to be part of any sort of AI implementation. All right, next one. You need to be a prompt expert. There's been a lot of you've probably gotten emails about, hey, take this class to become an expert prompt engineer. And it's true that the more and the better input that you provide AI, the better output you're going to get. However, the models have evolved to a point where you can use natural language to ask it what you want, iterate on that, and in the background, it's actually rebuilding the prompt that you give it anyways, and to be a more detailed and much more involved prompt anyways. And so I would say if you feel like you need to be a prompt engineer expert, try it again. Try it, and I think you'll find that as the output gets better and better, it's going to learn your nuances. So those are some of the common myths that people have and need to overcome, and I think experience will just prove those.
All right, so next I want to jump over to some shifts in mindset that are required, I think, to work better with AI. So here's a few tips. The first is to think iterative. Like if you would consider, if you had a new team member join your organization, a new employee, a new hire, and they made a mistake, right? You wouldn't just like cut them off and fire them, be like, all right, that was it. No, you would give them feedback. And the same thing applies to AI, that when you're using it, like give it feedback if it doesn't get something just right. Like tell it what you want, because the more it knows about what you're trying to do, the better it will be able to perform. Next is to treat it like a partner and not necessarily a tool. And so this one may sound a little, I don't know, a little meta perhaps, like we're talking about using a computer as a partner. Well, really, again, context matters. Giving it as much understanding about the world you live in, the data that you have, the goals that you have, it will narrow down the context so much more, because you have to realize that general use AI has the whole world's knowledge at its fingertips. And so the more that we can narrow it down to your specific need, the better results it's going to give you. So speaking of context, that's an interesting drawing that it made with the rocket ship on that last one. Maybe that's a nod to Artemis. But context is everything. So give it access to documents. Give it access to your previous work. Give it examples. If you want it to produce a document that looks like something you've already done, then share that document with it. Now keep in mind that when we say share business information with AI, it needs to be a business version, right? It's going to be a Teams version of that so that they don't use your data to train its models, and that's really important. But and so if you wanted to use it for marketing, for example, then the AI needs to understand, well, what is your brand voice, right? That way that it will be able to provide something that's really specific to your needs. So again, give it as much context as possible. And I will say that, and I demonstrated this last time, I typically prefer to use my microphone as my input method into ChatGPT or into Claude or to whatever you're using for your chatbot, because I can dump so much more out of my head faster than I can type. And so the more that I can give it, the better results that it will have. The other thing is that all of the tips that we would have given you maybe 2 years ago, although they're still applicable today, AI does evolve and it changes. And so don't get attached to a single behavior pattern that you might establish today, because in the future, as AI changes and evolves, it's you might need to change your own habits. So keep that in mind. All right, Jason, passing back to you.
Yeah, very quickly, and I know we have a lot, so I'm going to move. I'll just warn you, I'm going to move fairly quickly through some of these slides, but we want to talk about how we really interact with AI, and so there's a couple different ways we can do that. The first being with chatbots, and this is what most people are familiar with. This is when we're logging in and either ChatGPT, Claude, Gemini, others, and we're chatting, right? We're putting prompts in, or getting that text responses back, or whatever. These are getting more and more powerful than what they have been. They can do a lot more, and so we'll talk about that a bit later on another slide. But so yeah, chatbots is one. It's kind of your front door into AI. The next is AI embedded into your existing tools. You've probably all seen this. You all have software vendors or software that you're using, and you get those emails or that little notification that says, hey, try our agent that's in the software. Every software vendor has either implemented or is implementing, I'll promise you that, some sort of AI into their software, right? And so this is a way that you can use. Some of these are really a marketing play, but some are actually useful, right? And you can use those because they have context. They have that context that Brian was talking. Next is specialized AI apps. So for instance, I don't need a general model, but I want something that's going to be focused in on a specific thing. So if I need, for instance, we demoed Gamma, which is slide deck presentation. That's what we go to. We don't go to ChatGPT and says, hey, give me a slide deck. You could, but Gamma is much more tailored to that specific task. And so we have these specialized AI apps that are out there. You could, there's a lot of them out there. These are purpose built for a particular task, right? And then we have automation and vibe coding tools. So these are tools to automate processes, build things, such as well, like a website or a landing page, or maybe you need an automated process and you need to move data from here to here in different applications in your organization. We've got these automation and vibing tools that are available. These are very powerful. I think what we showed, those prior 3 slides about chatbots, embedded AI, and specialized apps, those are very approachable. Anyone can just go and start using those. Whereas these take a little more technical expertise to kind of understand, set up, secure. And so I guess I just want to highlight that, yes, a lot of people, AI makes these things maybe more approachable than they have in the past. Yet, I'll just say, what we've seen is if you have a partner who has maybe walked that path before, you can make that project a success if you need to use something like this. So, lastly, we'll talk about agents. And so Brian alluded to this at the beginning, like we have general AI and then agents. Agents are something where we can give a task to AI and it will just go out and do it. It's very goal oriented or driven. And it says, hey, what do you have for me? I kind of equate this to a Labrador puppy, right? It's like comes and says, what do you have for me? Give it to me and I'll do it and I'll chase the ball or whatever. So you give it that task, it goes off and does it autonomously. You don't need to really babysit it until it comes back with the results and then says, what do you have for me next? That's kind of what an agent. And you build these agents to do specific tasks as well. So if I wanted to build an agent to read all my email and say, find all the email that's relevant to this particular project and then correlate it, analyze it, and then give me a summary every day at the end of the day, I could have an agent built to do that and then perform that task for me automatically, right? That's an example. So I know maybe Brian, help me fill in if there's anything else that I know we wanted to kind of dig a little deeper, and I think maybe we want to show something around this, right?
Yeah, I'll just show real briefly. One of the things that we've been doing is we just have so many applications in our business, and so I realize that we're not going to be the only ones. But when we think about all the things this is just for advanced data, this is just a list of applications that we have, right? There's a lot here. Well, we realized that we wanted to integrate them together. Because there's really benefit to having something that can see all of that data and then provide us dashboards, provide us reporting, provide us insight into what's happening in all these applications, right? There's just so much opportunity there. And so we have also built some agents and we built some things around that. And I'll just demonstrate one real quickly. For us, it's the tech assistant. And so the tech assistant it's a chat bot that we can use to talk to something about our own data. And I have it here on my phone. I'll stop sharing so I can have a little bit bigger screen here. But I have it here on my phone, and I'll just demonstrate real quick that I can actually talk to this data. Hey there, can you tell me how many tickets are assigned to me?
You've got one open ticket assigned to you. Anything specific you want to do with it?
Yeah, can you go ahead and enter time for me on that ticket? From 10 o'clock to 10:30, I have been in a webinar.
Done. Total time entry on that ticket. Need anything else?
No, that's it. Thanks.
You got it.
So that's just a quick example that shows, like, if I'm in the field and I need to keep track of my time, right? To be able to talk to something, and I didn't go into depth. I mean, there's a lot more that I could do there. Just to be able to quickly do a task like that, like while I'm driving, even to talk to an agent to get that done, it would speed things up and really make things efficient. So I see we've hit the 10:30 mark here. We don't have to finish everything else that was in our deck. I'll just summarize it very quickly that as you get to using AI, we've talked about a lot of things here. One of the things that should feel liberating to you is that all of the AI tools are starting to be like every other AI tool. And why that's liberating is that there may be this fear that, oh, I need to have coverage for every single little thing in my business and have the right tool. Well, the truth is now when we look at ChatGPT versus Claude versus Google Gemini, like there's so much overlap now, and that they can create images, they can create documents, that a general purpose AI tool is just getting better and better, that it might mean that you don't need to invest in certain specific vertical tools, right? So I just wanted to state that, and also highlight that when you start to use AI a lot, there's a few things to just be aware of. One of those is that AI is very eager to please. And so feel free to challenge it, right? If it gives you an answer, it's okay to say, hey, that doesn't look right, or hey, challenge my thinking on this. So just one other tip that I would give. I will add that we do teach a class on AI, and so we can dive very, very deep into any of the topics that we talked about today. Paul, I'll turn it back over to you because I see I'm 1 minute over, so I want to make sure we close on time here.
No worries. Jason, Brian, thank you so much for sharing with us and for walking us through. So we're not behind anymore, and that's the message that we want to share with everybody. You know, we feel a responsibility to help our partners and our friends stay up to date on technology. Things are moving very, very quickly. It's exciting, perhaps a little bit intimidating, but overall it's exciting and worthwhile. Wanted to make sure that everybody on our call knows that we would like to create a roadmap for you. And so the start of this roadmap and the overview of this, the evaluation process, we can get started, and there's no obligation and no cost to do that. I look at our attendee list. I know that there are some people who we're going to have the second phase meeting with in just the next 7 days. And I see some people who maybe we haven't even had the chance to work with yet. And so we want everybody to have an AI roadmap. Every organization needs a roadmap. And so we invite you to reach out and begin the conversation with us. And so our QR code here will give you an opportunity to schedule a time that's convenient. Keith is our AI consultant, Keith Evans, and he's a fantastic resource. He wasn't able to be on our call today, but he would be coming to visit with you and to represent the company in sharing more about how you can use AI. Let's take a moment and see if there's any questions that anybody has. And so if you're on the call and you'd like to ask a question while we have a captive audience with Jason and Brian here, go ahead and either raise your hand or send us a chat message and we can unmute you and give you a chance to ask a question.
And we could talk about this all day. I love talking about AI, so.
Yeah.
Well, I just like to point out that what Brian showed with that voice assistant wasn't built into our software. That was something that we built, that we tied it into our data. And so I guess the big thing I want to share there is, what if you could talk to your software? What if you could talk to your data? You're out on the road and you can get access to it that easily and quickly. It just unlocks capabilities that we didn't have in the past. And so being able to build these things as well. The other thing I'll highlight as we wait for questions, if there's any, is as we evaluate software that we're using internally, we're actually evaluating it with the lens of, can we integrate this software easily into our other AI stack that we're using? And so that takes some skill, and we can also help with that sort of thing. But it's important in today's software selection as well.
Excellent. Well, we've had some thank yous and some expressions of gratitude for the information that was shared. We don't seem to have any questions at the moment. So we appreciate everybody's time here today, and we look forward to speaking with you further. So please reach out. We'd love to continue the conversation in the context of your specific organization, and we look forward to talking with you soon.
Yeah, thanks everybody. We'll see you.
Thanks.
Bye now.